Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
Thanks to TriBooth, the best vocal booth for home or on-the-road voice recording. Introducing Robert Marshall from Source Elements and Someone Audio Post, Chicago. Darren Robbo Robertson from Voodoo Radio Imaging, Sydney. Tech to the VO stars, George the Tech Whittam from LA. And me, Andrew Peters, voiceover talent and home studio guy.
Line up, ladies!
Here we go.
Welcome to another Pro Audio Suite podcast, thanks to TriBooth. If you'd like to save yourself $200 on your new purchase, just use the code PAP200. And just so you know, I'm actually in a TriBooth as we speak.
You're soaking in it.
I'm soaking in it, yes. No one's going to get that, I don't think.
Aussies will. Aussies will get it.
Aussies,
Yeah.
Ancient Aussies will get
Hey,
it.
Americans will get it too.
Oh.
It's
Oh,
the
really?
Palm Olive campaign.
Yeah. Oh, there
yeah,
you go.
absolutely.
Hey,
That was
see?
international, man.
Ah, there you go. I'm not as Aussie as I thought I was.
Does it affect your hands? Well, you're soaking in it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. Now
Does it burn?
have you still got flesh left on that skeletal hand that just
It's only
emerged from the
hydrochloric
toxic-
acid. You'll be fine. Don't worry. Trust me.
Yeah,
The
that's
all
burn
good.
means it's working.
Yeah. The upside is you'll never have to do your nails again.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because you haven't
Indeed.
got any. All right.
Yes, I do have a listener question.
You have a question.
This one.
See you in court.
This one actually came to you, and it's kind of audio, but it's also a kind of a good one for something different. Michael Lantrip sent it in. Thank you, Michael. So he says, creativity is fueled by curiosity. So how does Robert Marshall keep himself motivated now that he knows everything, which he clearly does? And on the same subject, how much do each of you actually know about what you do? And more specifically, what would you still like to learn or develop the ability to do or do better? Thanks for everything. The show is great, even though at least one of you appears to be Australian. And thank you very much for that. Who's the Aussie? Is this,
Yeah.
Did I miss something? Who's the Aussie in here?
Yeah, I have no idea.
No.
Yeah. Who's going to start this one?
I think Robert
directed
should.
to Robert.
No, Robert's
Yeah.
going to go to Robert.
Yeah.
Now that you know everything, how do you keep yourself
It's a lot to
motivated?
unpack, man.
Yeah, so how do I stay motivated now that I know everything?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, it's each project seems new or fun, or each project somehow has its own little curveball in it. With some music projects, often a way to stay motivated and keep it fun is to actually throw in limitations. I'm not sure of a good example, but I mean, you could even say, hey, I'm only going to do this on 8 tracks or something, and force yourself to be creative in other ways, because that helps to always be limited, and then you get creative that way.
I do something similar. I don't know whether this is one that gels with you, but I did one a couple of weeks ago. It was for just a little community radio station here, and it was this really simple job. But I said to myself, okay, I'm only going to use Avid plugins. So I limited myself to the Avid plugin set. That was the only plugin bin I could go to, was the Avid one. So, and that was kind of fun. And I actually learned a couple of things.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just about like changing what you do, and then you get new results out of it.
That's right, absolutely. Yep, totally.
I reckon a challenge would be unplug everything in your studio 5 minutes before a session.
That's a good way to get out of it.
Better get everything fired up.
Yeah.
Or install a firmware.
Yes.
Yeah, install firmware.
Or have a client text you halfway through a podcast record saying, hey, can you send us voice tracks? That'd be a bit of a challenge. There you go.
Yeah.
Get one. We need them in half an hour.
Yep.
But like in a way, just the work itself is motivating. It's, you enjoy doing it. There's always just like a fun thing about just working with audio and the content, it depends on exactly what you're working on. But I don't know, like that always keeps it new. So, because it is just constantly new stuff. Which is part of the fun of working it.
Do any of you guys do anything to sort of bolster your creativity? Like I have a couple of little ritual sort of things that I do just to sort of push my creativity. Do you guys have any little rituals?
I don't know. I think creativity
let me
has many
see.
different
Yeah, we know about that one.
I think creativity has different forms, right? Like I don't look at myself as a creative in the classical sense, right? Like I don't write content that often, and I don't, produce a show, but I do create in the way that I create content, or I create education, or I create a new way of solving a problem, or I create a new product. I mean, this year we're creating a brand new website. We're completely rethinking everything about how we do how our website's designed and how you're going to, work with our text. And so for me, creativity comes to just is more of a problem solving creativity, I guess. And well, I guess if I look at it that way, the problems never go away. So there's constantly something.
Yeah. I mean, even a lawyer in the city or the local butcher has to be creative in some way occasionally, right? Because they've got to write, even if it's just a newspaper ad, they've got to write a newspaper ad, or they've got to do something on their website or something. And that's why this.
Well, and they have to figure out how to keep on doing their job more efficiently.
Of course,
there's even creativity in, so to speak, laziness or efficiency.
Yeah,
Yep.
Well,
how to just refine your craft.
Yeah. So then the second part of Michael's question then is, what would you like to learn or develop the ability to do?
I got to go back to the first question one more time, and that is, I speaking for myself, definitely do not know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to say that. I don't
think anybody does, do they? I mean, certainly no one would say that.
Actually, the first thing is to admit that you know nothing.
Of course.
Yes. That's the first way to be able to take knowledge in and grow.
Yeah, and then be surprised when you do know something.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Like I get to the end of a 30-minute consult and I go, holy crap, I answered every question and I knew the answer to everything they needed and they were happy. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But other times it doesn't go that well. Well, it's definitely don't know everything. We're learning stuff constantly. We're learning new problems that need to be solved all the time. And that's just part of doing what we do. Like, you have to be willing to learn. And do I want to learn everything? No. I don't want to know how to make Reaper become a video editor.
Mm-hmm.
It can do that.
Yeah.
I know it can do it, and I know it's incredibly customizable. But when it comes to Reaper, I'd rather have somebody else on my team be the Reaper guy, or I'd rather have somebody else be the Pro Tools expert on the team, et cetera, et cetera. I know that I'm starting to max out on new concepts and new things that I want to learn in terms of tech, but I always want to get better at doing what I already know how to do, I guess, is kind of where the creativity comes in.
How do you keep on top of stuff like new stuff? Is that just come from going to trade shows and stuff, or is that reading and reaching as well?
Well, the last 2 years, it's definitely not from trade shows.
No, well, that's my point. That's why I was asking. That's kind of what interests me.
It's staying highly engaged with a user community that I know also likes this stuff.
Yeah.
Like Jim Edgar, like he did the review of the Clarity VX plugin recently. Like, he did it before anybody else did because he's really an enthusiast and he's really quick at getting a video out when that stuff comes. And so I honestly didn't know about Clarity VX until he did that video. Staying in contact with vendors, Mike Goodman at Centrance, something new comes out. I may not be the first guy he calls, but I will eventually get to use it and talk about it. Other vendors will reach out to me early because they value my opinion or they want to see what I'm going to have to say about it. So it's just, it's maintaining a lot of different vendor relationships, including software vendors, Source Elements notwithstanding. That's for sure. That's how I kind of be on top of things, but there's no way I can be on top of everything. So I just try to pay attention to different channels of content and, hope that I'm not missing anything really, really cool. And if I do miss the thing that's really cool, I will acknowledge that, hey, like on VOBS, I said, Jim Edgar did this thing about VX. I didn't know about it, but Jim did, and give credit where credit's due.
Yeah. There's a great saying I heard the other day. A guy who runs a huge company said, I never went to Harvard, but everybody I employ did.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, look at Zuckerberg. I bet Facebook wouldn't be Facebook without the squillions of people he's put around himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, AP?
In what respect?
Well, in
Which
terms
one?
of what's something that you want to do better or learn how to do?
I'm always trying to be better at what I do. So it's as cliched.
What's that exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you do that?
Many people ask that question. But I know it's
Can we get your wife on the show?
Yes, that's right.
Do you mean go on holiday to Byron Bay and sort of laze around in a voice booth by the beach? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's
In your
right.
Hawaiian
yeah.
shorts.
Yeah, in a tri
But
booth.
it's just well, I mean that's another learning thing is how can you make things work when you're away,
Yep.
that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I know it's a cliched old banger, but I think if you're doing this for a living, you always want to be better. So every time you read something, you just want to put something better
Push
in
yourself
there.
that little bit further.
Yeah, and I like to be challenged. I love having. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that I do every day. It's the same. But every now and then you get something that's really cool, really different.
Like maybe it's not even being better. Maybe it's keeping relevant and keeping up with it. There's always like new sounds, and you're watching other things. And you're like, oh, look at listen to other people's sound design. You're like, oh, I wonder how they did that. You have that sound, idea in your head. You hear other spots and how someone voices something, and the whole sort of craft. Both of them, they all move together separately but they're all progressing. And, as artists, we're, in a sense, keeping up with what's happening.
Yeah. I think and also the other thing, and I think I'm kind of, even though I've always thought it was unlucky, I think being based in Australia and working mainly in Australia to begin with was actually probably good for me because it gives me longevity. Because every time I go into a new marketplace, I'm a new kid on the block. But being the new kid with, 30 years experience or something, or 40 years experience, whatever. So that's kind of handy. But the only place I have never actually got into, which is a bit of a frustration, I think. I've done a few bits and pieces in America, but not very much. And people say, oh, why don't you work on an American accent? It's like, why would I do that when there's plenty of people with American accents already out there? Like, no one's got my accent, no one's got my voice. That's my trademark. That's what I'm selling.
And fair enough too. That's right.
Yeah.
That is your product. Exactly.
Yeah.
I am who I am. Yeah, no, I agree. The thing that I sort of try to work on is, well, this is probably more from a business sense than a professional sense, but educating clients that things don't just happen quickly.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, look, I mean, especially with radio imaging, it's kind of interesting because, you suffer and you sort of, especially when you're talking like stuff that's big, 60-second promos, like, well, there's a winner's promo that I'm working on now, right? It's so far it's probably got 6 hours invested in it, and it's probably got 3 more until it's done. But when, if you look at your session, you sort of go, oh, there's a music bed and a few sounds and there's this and there's that, but it's all got to fit together nicely and do the job that it needs to do. And there's more to it than that because the music beds have been almost chopped down by the beat and had, all sorts of different effects and stuff put on them and all the rest of it. But the client gets it and, they appreciate it, obviously. But they don't fully get what's gone into it. And that's kind of...
They don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. And it's sort of like, well, and when you say, oh, that was 8 or 9 hours work, they go, oh, wow, really? And you go, yes, it actually was. It's like, there's time. And so that sort of education in terms of them understanding what they're getting billed for is interesting and something that I'm trying to work on. Yeah, definitely.
It's difficult, actually. It's difficult trying to answer the question because it seems a bit embarrassing apart from anything else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wouldn't say embarrassing. I mean, I think I'm sure I speak for all of us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if any of us got to the day where we thought we weren't learning anything, you'd probably turn around and go, well, it's time for a career change.
Yeah, true.
The day I sit down behind Pro Tools and I don't get up at the end of the day having done something new, I think is the day that I'll give it away. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's just like you're always striving for perfection, kind of like what Andrew said. It's like, actually, how much of your work, in a way, are you actually truly, truly happy with? You're never done with it. You could always tweak it and fix it and keep on messing with it and having a refined in a more refined version, you can always find something in a way.
Yeah, I agree. And the trouble is, and that's where it becomes an issue for someone like myself who works primarily on my own. That you
like when to say when.
Yeah, it's like, I probably could do that again. I could do better with that one. And you just like get yourself in a dirty, great big hole because you're never happy with what you've done.
Yeah.
So
what's funny, one of the biggest lessons I learned was the whole idea of like broad strokes. You know, you have a whole project to do, and you start up the first explosion or whatever piece of sound design you have to put in there. And in a way, what you don't want to do is get too buried into the details of that exact explosion. You want to get one there, move on, do the next stuff. You can start to see how it's shaping. Then you go back and you refine that first one. Because, you know, it's like, imagine like chiseling a sculpture, but you're going to start with the nose and do the frickin' nose hairs right away.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You have to get a view of how it's coming together and know where you need to push the clay here and there.
You should make radio imaging.
And
you should make it's exactly the same.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Well, hopefully we've answered those questions.
Yeah. George, did you want to throw your thing in?
This is kind of a maudlin thing, but I think it's important. Yeah, so totally off topic, but it just came up recently and very freshly today, and it's just something to be aware of. So I had a client who I'd worked with many years ago, and who was connected to me through another client. So there was definitely a personal connection. And in the dealings with this client, things went south badly. There was communication problems. There was, unfortunately, some rather biting emails from the client, getting into the realm of like insulting. And it was very disconcerting. And I realize when I get emails and I get into the situation, I can be pretty sensitive. One of the emails, I wouldn't even read it. I told my girlfriend, "Hey, will you read this? I can't read it." So it was very difficult. Well, in dealing with the person after a week or so, I started thinking, maybe there's something wrong. Like, it's not me necessarily. It's not the situation, but maybe there's something wrong physically or mentally with the person. Well, it turned out there was. And sorry, it could choke me up a little bit, but the person has Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Oh, shit.
Oh, Jesus.
I had a feeling that was the case.
Yeah.
But I didn't know for sure. Like, I saw all the little symptoms started to add up. I was like, irrational behavior, forgetful. I even saw his handwriting because he handwrote me a check, and I was like, whoa. And it was really difficult. And just because of the personal connection I have with this gentleman and his friend received a call from my client's wife and said, you didn't know, did you? And she mentioned that to him that, yeah, he has Alzheimer's. It's setting in, and also he has Parkinson's. And when my client friend told me, and I said, oh my gosh, I had a really strong feeling. But at the time, my reaction was very bad. I was very defensive. I was very angry that he would treat me this way, almost like, how dare you? Do you know who I am? I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And looking back at all the evidence, the way the communication fell apart, there was some confusion on his part and some forgetful. I was like, I think there's something wrong here. And it turned out that it was. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you're dealing with somebody that you don't get to really interact with personally, face to face, and there's irrational things happening and you can't understand why things are breaking down, you may not know that they're suffering from Alzheimer's. Or it could be something else, but you don't know. Yeah. And just try your best to be open and compassionate, because they're having a bad day, they're having a bad year, and you have no idea how much worse it's going to get. And it's just, it triggered me so hard, and I have to back up and realize all of that was not my fault. I know I was beating up myself and I was frustrated, but in the end, it's just somebody who's suffering and I didn't know. And so just a little message to everyone out there to be compassionate and patient. And if something goes wrong, just step away and hope that that person's going to get the help they need, or they're going to be okay. But I'm working with a lot of clients right now, and I'll check in with my assistant every week going, what's going on with that project? What's going on with that project? We haven't heard from her in 2 months. Is she okay? I don't know. Like, is she sick? Does she have COVID? Like, is something else going on? When we're all working with a lot of clients ongoingly, we don't know what's going on with everybody. So I don't know, just be compassionate. And if anybody knows anybody or a family member with Alzheimer's, man, I feel for you because it's incredibly challenging.
Yes, it is. We went through it recently with my mother-in-law. So yes, I know exactly what it's like.
I don't know if you have it over there, but we have a thing over here called Are You OK Day? And it's where you sort of, it's the day you sort of say to your mate, hey, just checking in, are you okay? Or whatever. It's only started a couple of years ago, and it's really only just starting to gain some momentum, but it's a really, really good idea. And it's a really good habit to get into as well. And the other thing that No, go. You go.
No, I'm really bad. And I think this is social media as much as anything. But unless I see constant communication with people on social media and everything else, some people fade into the distance very quickly. Yeah. Because if they're not engaging on social or something, then I just stop talking to them. And there's a lot of people I realize, like, I haven't talked to him in a year. I have no idea if he's okay. And he's someone that I consider a friend, so this is a really good reminder.
Indeed. And the other thing that I took out of that just quickly, and the other thing that I've become aware of very much so through COVID is sort of email is a really difficult thing to get right, because you can say something, you can write something in a way on an email that is meant as completely harmless and just written in one sort of way, but the other person, the reader at the other end, can completely misconstrue that and take it as something that's completely offensive or something. So
yes,
it's
you got to be really careful with sarcasm in written form. Very careful, because I'm just the sort of person that will still pick up the phone if it's something like that. If I'm finding it difficult to write an email and I'm being conscious of how's the other person going to construe this, I'll just pick up the phone in the end. I'll just call them and go, hey, and because when you say it, and they can hear it, it's completely different. They can get the tone of your voice and all the rest of it. But on a piece of paper, it's really hard to get that across sometimes. I need to do that more.
Touchy stuff. Yeah.
I tend to be very non-confrontational. I like to form my words carefully in sentences and write things carefully. And I get nervous about the live confrontation of a conversation, maybe with somebody I'm having a difficult time with. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, this was a situation where maybe if I called him back, a week or two ago and we had a discussion about what was going on, I would have had a pretty strong idea that, hey, there's something else going on here. And I could have properly dealt with it. So that's a good reminder.
It is indeed. Well, on that note,
there's our public service for the year.
Yeah, give someone a call and say, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to Tribooth. Recorded using Source Connect. Edited by Andrew Peters. And mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging. With tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, proaudiosuite.com.